So good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, May 2nd. It's the beginning of the month. So over the weekend, we looked at some monthly charts to try and figure out what stocks we might want to consider to get some indication about direction, and got some pretty good indication, or pretty clear indications. And one of the things we did notice is this is the VIX. So the VIX here is showing a big W. We have this triangle here that the VIX broke out of on Friday. So that's a very unusual and rare chart pattern. So if the VIX is able to find support here above this algorithmic support level, resistance level at 3384, or if it climbs today, even if it falls back to here, if it climbs today, then the idea here is that the VIX is going to probably go to 40, because again, this would be a breakout to the upside, a strong breakout. So we're looking at buying SPY puts today, or at least buying the SPY today, one way or the other. But if the VIX breaks above this level, then instead of buying today's expiration, because generally I'm a day trader, I would consider buying Wednesday's expiration and swinging the SPY. Because again, if this breaks above here, particularly if it gets above this 8-year trailing stop, then thinking 40 is in play. And that would be a really nice move to the downside. So looking at the SPY right now, marked the previous low, and when SPY breaks this previous low, we're expecting it to continue lower. So I'm going to put on pull up my chart here, trading chart. We also talked about the trading journal and our gains and losses for the week. Currently, our account stands at 531.05, so we're a little bit behind in terms of trying to meet our targets. However, we are still positive, which is the most important thing. The idea is to protect your capital at all costs. This past week, on Friday in particular, I had a funeral and some other things, and I do not leave my account open if I can't watch it. I'm not one who sets stops and depend upon those stops to keep me in a trade. I like to actually be watching what's happening. So let's go to a chart here. We're going to say Monday. Monday, we're going to put the SPY, and we're going to put the VIX just so we can keep an eye on it. There are a couple of other things I've looked at as well that look like they might present some good opportunities. And just, if I go back to this buy list, if I go to a 30-minute, let's go to a 4-hour chart, maybe 4-hour chart. Apple is an inside bar. So Apple could be a nice trade to the downside once it breaks below this 155. Confluent looks like it is ready to be bought. So I don't like the spreads typically on Confluent. All right, so they're not too bad today. So Confluent to the downside. And also Datadog, once it breaks this inside low, it has a very shallow target. So probably, well, I'll keep it on just because there's no support below here. So it could continue to fall. But Expedia looks really attractive. And the reason why Expedia looks attractive is because this is an inside monthly candle. And when it breaks through this trigger, which would indicate we should take an entry, it could go all the way to 151. So we would have some time to continue a trade to the downside. Of course, being interrupted here, this is going to be really strong support at 166. But a move from 174 to 166 would be a really good return. Excuse me. So I'm going to add Expedia to the daily, to Monday, and consider Expedia as well. But primarily we're looking at SPY. So these are secondary opportunities. This is a little far from the trigger, so we're not going to worry about this one. Lockheed Martin sitting right on top of the trigger here, and it could fall to 411. 421.97 is where the 8-year trailing stop is. So from 432 to 421, that's about a $9 move. So it moves 12 bucks a day. So that's actually, that would be a nice return. And the 5 is about to cross the 50 to the downside. So I'm going to add Lockheed to our list. And net, let's see where it is. So it is sitting right on the trigger. So what we would do if we were trading these would be to buy on the open, because they actually hit the trigger here. Net, if it declines and falls below, then that would signal an entry or consideration for an entry. So I'm going to add net also to Monday. Neo has some room to fall. Vista has some room to fall. XPEV. Oh, Zscaler. So Zscaler looks attractive. And again, Zscaler is probably the best because it doesn't have any support. There's no ATR trailing stop. Let's look on the, we didn't see anything on the 4-hour. Let's look a little bit further out. And see, let's go a little wider. Still nothing. All right, so there's nothing here. There's no support. Let's see if we go with a 30-minute chart, maybe a 1-hour, and see if we can find anything here. And we're looking for support where we can have a problem hitting our target. No support. And 30-minute. So since the trailing stop is up top, we know it's not going to be on the bottom. So there's no support at all for Zscaler. So Zscaler would be our primary. So I'm going to now get rid of these, and the market is about to open. And we're going to be keeping an eye on SPY. So looking at the VIX right now, let's get set for a SPY trade. So if we're going to buy the SPY, again, we're looking at buying next week's expiration. So that's going to be actually next week, Wednesday. That's going to be the 4th. And the open interest, these are kind of expensive. So we need to find something a little bit within our budget. So maybe the 395. The 395. All right, so looking at the VIX, we're expecting the VIX to find support and then to climb. So we're going to track the SPY. And we're going to mark this as the opening low. This could change. And we also talked about Z-scaler. We mark the opening low. So Z-scaler looks like it's hit the trigger. We want to see it then get rejected here if we're going to buy it to the downside. All right, the VIX looks like it's going to find some support here. I'm looking at it on a 30-minute chart. All right, so the VIX looks like it's going to behave the way that we want it to. That's going to give us a shot at a SPY put. And we're looking at buying the May 4th 395. And I'm watching the VIX on my other screen. We want to see how the VIX is going to perform. Ideally, we want to get the best price on the SPY. So we want to buy near the top. Right now, that would have been up here, but we think that, all right, so the VIX is climbing. We're going to just wait and be patient. So looking at the VIX, we're going to mark this as the opening low. There is this ATR trailing stop here, but it's less of a concern. And again, going back to this daily chart on the VIX, this is a breakout, and we expect this to continue to the upside. All right, looking for our opportunity on SPY or Z-scaler. So Z-scaler hit this inside candle low and got rejected. Z-scaler may be out of our price range, given that we have a small account. It's a little expensive for what we're trying to accomplish. So our best deal is going to be SPY. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get in early on SPY. And I made that decision because it fell through the opening low, even though it made an opening high here. I needed to fall through this previous low to get some momentum to the downside. And I bought the Wednesday expiration because I'm looking at swinging this SPY put rather than a day trade. Now, and what's interesting, the interesting note about that is this would be my only trade. Could be my only trade today. All right, so just going to keep an eye on what's happening with the VIX. We look at the daily chart. VIX is performing the way we want it to. This is where it's going to have some difficulty. We want to see how it handles that ATR trailing stop on the 4-hour. This is on the weekly. So this is where I found this resistance here on the weekly chart. So we'll keep an eye on this. All right, so our SPY put is working. Now, I will say, if we, depending upon our gain, we could go ahead and take profit today, but don't want to be too early. But also don't want to let greed be a factor either. So if we can take profit and take a nice profit off this one trade, and we've only used 20% of our account value, then that would be a nice gain for today. Any questions about this trade or about why it was taken?
Hey, Richard. Yeah, it looks like you're confirming it with the VIX, right? I mean, the S&P is breaking down pretty hard, so, but the VIX is confirming it, right?
Correct. So on yesterday, Sunday, we took a look at the VIX and identified this big W. And I'm just going to make this a really big, thick. Oh, it is thick already. And we identified this big W here. And this is an unusual and rare chart pattern. And when you see it and you have a triangle, then a breakout of the triangle to the upside typically signals a strong move to the upside. So that's what we saw on the VIX. Now there's another chart that has the same pattern, and it's I think it's Merck. Let's see. Yeah, so Merck. And let me just zoom out a little bit here. Merck has a similar pattern, and we would buy Merck if we're buying calls, because we're expecting Merck to have a breakout. Again, you see this big W, and now we've got this descending triangle, and I can move this down here. And we're expecting Merck to have a similar move to the upside. So again, if we're buying calls, we're buying Merck. But right now, based on the VIX, we're into this SPY trade, and the VIX is performing the way we had expected it to. So when we saw that move to the upside on the VIX, then that confirmed that we were going to take this down, this put trade on SPY. If the VIX had opened and this resistance had held here and it declined, then I would have been a bit more tentative on the trade and would have waited. But when it started to climb here, then that was a signal to go ahead and trade to the upside. All right, so let's take a look at this 15-minute candle. All right, so we're going to sit in this trade. Now, we could have taken some profit here and had a nice bit of profit on this move. But the one thing I want to note, and this is fairly significant, let me just pull up my trading journal. The one thing I want to note about this is the fees. And I didn't really take into full consideration the fee structure and the cost for trading options. So 65 cents per contract, that can get pretty expensive. So over trading is a problem, because the more you trade, the more these fees erode your value. So you want to try and get the most out of each trade, because at $1.30 for a round trip, that can be pretty pricey. So as you can see, it actually ate into our profit. And if I can figure out, there we go. So on, let's take Tuesday where we had a nice profit. We had a return of 19% on Tuesday, but after fees, it was only 18.5. So the fees can be significant. So again, we want to make sure we try and limit the number of trades we make. So we want to try and stay in a trade as long as we can, but at the same time, not, lose any of our capital. So it's a delicate, difficult dance, to say the least. And we want to be right as much as we possibly can. So looking at Zscaler, we're going to keep our eye on this because this is one we'd like to trade to the downside. So Zscaler here, it would be where I would buy a put because it's hitting the ATR trailing stop, the 20-day EMA, and the opening high here, and it just broke through. So let me see what's happening with the SPY. The SPY is, so we've got 2 shooting stars on the VIX. That's trouble. That could be trouble. We'll just have to wait and see, but we're gonna make sure that we don't lose too much of our gain. Yeah, I don't like, okay, so we only have one. I don't like this shooting star here. That signals reversal. It's at the top of a move. So we could have a reversal in this market and it could turn against us. But let's take a look from a longer term perspective. Let's look at the VIX and see where it is relative to this support level. And that looks good still. So we still have about 15 minutes before this candle closes. So this is a key support level here. And so is this. So even though we have this decline and the SPY seems to be moving against us, we're going to see what happens here with the VIX.
Hey, Richard, we already made 10% on that SPY trade.
Yeah, I was up significantly and I could have taken profit, probably should have. But again, I'm trying to minimize the number of trades I take, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. So it's not, you don't set your limit to 10% gain and then you
No.
let it ride. Okay.
Well, I don't, it depends. It depends. And I think based on what I saw, again, looking at the SPY, looking at the VIX, I'm anticipating that the VIX is going to continue moving to the upside. So I could have taken my profit, but I think there's still more downside to the SPY. So I'm going to give this trade an opportunity to play out. Because what I have is, let's see. As long as the VIX is above this support here, which is at 33.84, I'm going to stay in my SPY trade. And I'm looking for the VIX to eventually break through this ATR trailing stop. And the reason why I did not take the profit initially is because I think there's more to be made. And I'm trying to limit the fees I pay for my trades because I have a small account. And with a small account, when you're trading cash, you only have like 5 trades at the most when you can actually find some good trades. I want to take advantage of all of those. So I'm going to stay here. I think I'm still good. I'm still confident in this trade. And right now I'm up 5%. I was up probably 30. So I think we're still good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to get shaken out of my trade because what looks like, I mean, this could just be a head fake here. But I don't want to get shaken out of my trade because I'm a little bit emotional, especially with a small account. Again, because if you overtrade, next thing you know, you had some profit, but that got eaten up by the fees that you paid. So I'm going to try to get the most out of it, and I'm looking really to swing this. Now, if for some reason that does not look like it's going to work, then okay. But I'm willing to risk, David, a loss on this trade based on what I've seen on my charts. Let's go to a 30-minute chart. So the 5-day EMA and the 20-day EMA is holding. Despite a low of 409.25. The 5-day EMA is holding on the 1 hour and the 30-minute. The 5-day EMA is holding as resistance on the 4 hour. So I'm okay with this. I like what I'm seeing. I feel comfortable with my current position. Although I don't have the gain that I had earlier, I'm still positive. So I'm good with that. And I'm not going to lose more than 5% on this trade. So if for some reason it hits a negative 5%, regardless of what I see on my chart, if it looks like it's going to continue to decline, the value, I'm going to get out because I'm trying to protect my capital. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And, bond rates are jumping today. So, I mean, the trend is on your side. Yeah, I see what you're doing. You took a little bit longer expiration. Probably if you'd have been in today's expiration, you'd have gotten out.
I would have gotten out because that would have been a huge gain.
Right.
If I bought today's expiration, I probably would already have made 50% on that trade or more.
Right. Yeah, I get it. Perfect.
So I'm going to give this a chance to see how it handles this opening high because we've got an ATR trailing stop here. And again, the VIX, there's a lot of pressure. So now we've got another shooting star on the VIX. So it may be that we are going to have a green day today, and this may not work to the upside. I'm not above being wrong, but I am going to be a bit patient here. And time, you're correct, David. I do have time on my side.
Oh, where do you have the VIX trading? What price?
The VIX is at 34.67.
Yeah, that's what I've got. Okay.
And that's high. So the VIX is elevated. I mean, the VIX is right where we want it. I'm really, again, comfortable with this trade because, again, because of this pattern here, this chart pattern, I have a lot of confidence in this trade. Based on this chart pattern, again, which is rare, based on how the VIX opened today, it should climb today, and tomorrow it could quite easily gap open to the upside, which would then send the market down considerably. So I'm, again, very confident in the trade. And if I'm wrong, then I'm going to protect my capital and get out and try it again. But I'm trying to not do that. I'm trying to stay with the trade and give it an opportunity to work out. So it looks like the SPY is about to capitulate here. But you are very well correct. If I bought today's expiration down here, I would have easily have been able to take my profit and get out. And it would cost me a heck of a lot less as well. I paid $1.33 for the call option, and I could have probably bought, let's see, the May 22nd. I could have probably bought I would have bought the 405 or the 406 for 60 or 70 cents. And that could very easily have doubled at this point. So looking at Zscaler, which was another one that we were going to target, it's just made a high here at 207. So we have a lot of volatility still in the market. And let's take a look at a different setup. Let's go to the volume profile and see what that tells us about today.
So Richard, did you just say a 405 or a 406 on the SPY would have been profitable today?
Hold on, let me just get back to the SPY. So what I said, I could have bought yeah, that's correct. A 405 or 406, because all you need is for the price to move down. You don't need it to hit the target. So as long as the SPY moved down, it would have been profitable because I was buying a put.
Okay, I guess just because it was, oh, it's not too far out the money. Okay. Okay, I just kind of be hesitant when it comes to out the money. I don't know.
Yeah, I tend to buy out the money because my aim is, again, to be an intraday trader. So I'm buying cheap. So I'm really just buying time. And of course, if the stock moves in my direction, then it moves closer to being in the money. And when that happens, then the value of the option goes up. So again, I'm not going to be in a trade very long typically. Today's is one of the exceptions based on what I saw on this chart. But I like to be in and out quickly. So getting it right is really important. If you buy outside the money and it moves against you, then you have to get out quickly. You can't stick around because at that point it's just going to erode, the value of your account. But if it moves in your direction, it's also going to increase the value quickly. So you can take your profit in a matter of, minutes versus waiting a full day.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, if I was in, like Dave said earlier, if I was in a SPY trade expiring today and I bought outside the money, I would have sold out down here and it would have been very profitable because waiting like I am now wouldn't necessarily benefit me because again, outside the money expiring today, it's quite likely that that time value is going to be eroded, which means the value is going to be eroded. But I bought time, so I have a little bit more extra. I can be a bit more patient with my trade today because this doesn't expire until Wednesday. I'm still outside the money, but it's a Wednesday expiration. I have a 395 put. And SPY moves $9 on average a day. So 395 is not unreasonable if it moves in the direction that I have planned for. And again, it's important not to trade more than one position at a time. So right now I'm showing the SPY is bullish. It's above the VWAP. It's in the high value area. It's a bit concerning, but again, looking at the time that we have, I think it's okay. Looking at the VIX is also climbing, so that's positive. We want the VIX to climb because as the VIX climbs, the SPY is going to fall. So it could be that what we have here, people are selling at the top. And I like the fact that the SPY is very liquid. So the spreads are not very wide. All right, the SPY just broke through the opening high. The VIX is falling. Let's look at a daily chart on the SPY. Go to a different chart setup. So now we're looking at a loss. We may have to consider executing on our stop. So this is a key area of resistance for us here, this ATR trailing stop and this opening high. So if we get a candle that closes above here on the 5-minute and then finds support here and starts to move up, then we're going to have to take our loss and exit this trade, even though we have time. This is the VIX. We saw this hammer, so that was a little bit concerning. As a result, we have this decline. So now we're looking at the VIX finding some support. Again, this is a critical juncture here for us on the SPY trade. So far we're only down $3 from our trade today. I think we started at 513 thereabouts. So we made a nice trade. Let me see, where did we start in terms of the value of our account? All right, so when we started our account, we had $531, so we're actually down about $15. So we see this SPY looks like it's finding some support here, but we're going to give it a little bit of time. So we've got the spinning top here at this point of resistance, which signals a reversal. And again, this is a key area here, and we're going to make sure we allow the candle to close. So we need to see a candle close above this level in order for us to consider exiting our trade and then find support to the upside. Now the 5-day crossing the 50 is typically bullish. So we're going to watch this right here. And this spinning top could signal a continuation versus a reversal. But the VIX is still above this support level. So it's still elevated. Looking at it on a daily chart.
Good Monday morning. Welcome to another hour of Squawk the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla, co-founder of the New York Stock Exchange. David Favors in LA. At the Milken Institute Global Conference this hour. Interviews with CEOs of Carlyle and Goldman Sachs. Morgan Brennan has the morning off. We did hit a new intraday low for the year at 41.10 on the S&P.
Are you in any trades this morning, Princess?
The trading session here at
I'm waiting on the SPY.
Okay,
I'm nervous about the first 15 minutes, so
I
I'm waiting on
understand.
the SPY. Yeah, I'm waiting on the SPY though.
All right, so we have this opening high. I'm gonna mark the opening low, which we haven't done, which is all the way down here.
company cuts its full year revenue outlook due to its expectation of continued market volatility, but he's currently biggest laggard on the S&P. Moving on this morning to the broader markets, as you know, coming off of a pretty brutal
So looking at the VIX again,
wait. So far year to date,
looks like maybe trying to find support here on the 20-day.
worst month since March 2020. How do investors play all the volatility? Joining us this morning, JP Morgan Asset Management's Vera Pandit and Citi's Scott Croner. Guys, good to see you both. Scott, let me begin with you. A lot of discussion about the degree to which the earnings yield is more
So
negative.
according to the VWAP, the SPY is bullish.
Further for a sub 4K, let's say. Is that
And the fact that it's trading in the upper half of its channel signals that it's bullish as well. But again, we're going to be patient. We're going to wait for this close above here and see how it handles the opening high. It's considerable volatility, as you can tell. And right now, we're just kind of going sideways.
in the news conference?
Well, you know, the house view here is that we're going to get 4 consecutive 50 basis point moves over the next several months. So that's what we're factoring into our perspective. No change in our year-end target of 4,700 for the S&P, which is essentially the Fed getting back to neutral. We begin to see some rolling over.
So it'd be nice if this just goes ahead and falls below this support on the 5-day and the 50 and the 20 and starts this decline. So I can then at least focus on other things. But I don't want to turn away from this chart as long as we're in this area here. I can see it on my other charts, but this is just a critical juncture on this trade.
To some extent, I mean, we've certainly seen to be enumerated that there are signs of peak inflation.
Richard, this is negative price action, if you want my opinion.
Say again?
I think it's negative price action.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so as well. I mean, you can see even the wicks at the top are pretty significant. So this, again, we're back at this opening high and back at this ATR trailing stop, which is a key indicator for us. And we want to see this hold, and we want to see the SPY get rejected here. If the SPY gets rejected here, then that confirms our prognosis. So we've got a climb in VIX again. All right, we need the SPY to fall below support. All right, here we go. All right, good. So now we just needed to close below this support level and then needed to see another red candle after that. So looking at the VIX, this is what's happening on the daily. This is what we've got. So the VIX is going to test this trailing stop again. And when it does, we are looking at it breaking through. When it breaks through, then the SPY is going to really break down. This is what we were expecting. Now, if I wanted to take a little bit more of a risk, excuse me, what I would consider is when the SPY breaks through this opening low here is to add to my position. Would be to buy another put. A couple of things I want to see though in order to do that. I want to take a look and see where the VIX is relative to this ATR trailing stop. And if it has broken through and found support, then that would signal then this would be something to consider, again, to add to my SPY put. So we're just going to keep an eye out and see what happens here. So the SPY is below its previous low on Friday. So looking at it on a daily chart, the problem for me right now though on SPY, and the only reason why I'm in this trade like this because of the VIX, is the 5-day EMA is at 417. So the reality of it is the SPY could climb to 417 before it gets rejected. But I like the way the VIX is sitting, so I got in a bit early rather than waiting. But it may very well be that, depending upon what happens today, may want to consider taking some profit and then, again, depending upon how the chart looks, and then waiting for the SPY to move up to that price and then buying off the rejection. But if the VIX breaks through this key level here, this ATR trailing stop at 35.37, which is on the weekly, if it breaks through this key level and finds support and then continues to climb, then I am good with exactly what we've done today. There's not a lot of volume for this candle here. Given the size of the candle, you want to see more volume. So there's still buyers in here propping up the price. All right, so we got to close here below support. So now this is all resistance. It's fallen below the VWAP as well. So now it's bearish. So let's take a look at the volume profile and see if we can make any other determinations regarding SPY. All right, so the SPY has fallen out of the low value area. So this is the low value area here, just between this red and white line. The point of control is up here. The SPY has fallen below the low value area, which is extremely bearish. We see it on the VWAP. We see it here also on the volume point of control, the volume profile. So anytime you're in the shaded area, you're okay. You want things moving. If you're going to be trading to the downside, you want them moving from the point of control into the low value area to the upside. Of course, we want them moving from the point of control to the upside. So there's some volume coming into the upside currently, but this is the VWAP, so we're still bearish. We're still below the opening low. I'm sorry, the closing low from Friday. So I'm going to go back to a different chart. And I use these different charts for different perspectives because you want to be able to at least have some confirmation on the different charts and time frames that you made at least a decision that has a chance of being successful. The problem here with time is time erodes the value of your option. So the longer this goes sideways, then the more time gets eroded. So I need this to now break down and make a strong move to the downside in order to get the best benefit. And I considered trading Apple as well to the downside because Apple is correlated with SPY. And Apple would be a nice trade because Apple was an inside month. So if you look at the monthly candle on Apple, Apple is an inside month. In other words, this candle, the high is lower than the previous high. The low is higher than the previous low. And this is the target for entry. This is the target for taking profit. So Apple is a trade to the downside. Looking again at this, inside month, buying here, puts when it falls below 155.38 and trading it down to 150.10. So Apple would be another nice opportunity. And I would look at the 148 if I was trading Apple, maybe even. Actually, I would be a bit more risky and I'd take the 150 because there are 20,000 contracts are traded at the 150 put. So this Apple is an inside month. I'm going to add it to my list here. All right, so going back to SPY. Again, we just have this volatility. So looking at the VIX here, this signals continuation, the spinning top. We're just dealing with this resistance here at 35.37. And you wouldn't see this unless you had marked it on your chart. This is from the weekly chart. So it's interesting. It's kind of this invisible barrier. And unless you mark it, you wouldn't know it was there. So this is a key area for us. So we need the VIX again to climb above this 35.37 and then to find support above 35.37. Then we can have a lot more confidence in our move to the downside on the SPY. Right now, we're still positive. So we do have a gain of about 10% right now. And as I mentioned about the VIX, that being a continuation, you can see it right here. So this spinning top doji continuation. So here we're going to test this ATO trailing stop, this invisible barrier that's on the weekly chart that we have marked on this 5-minute. And what we do is we search for, on all time frames, support and resistance. And when it's identified, just mark it. because it does come into play. I mean, you may not recognize it, but it does come into play, and we use those as key decision points. So I like the fact that the SPY is below the 5-day EMA. That's going to be resistance now, and the fact that the 5-day EMA is right here at the previous low. But then we have on the VIX, we have a shooting star that's forming. Okay, so now it's not. So there's some pressure. Volatility is significant here. So I like the way the chart looks now, and you can see the reversal here. So that whenever you have a candle that signals reversal at the upside and overhead resistance, then that's where you look for the reversal to happen. So this is a spinning top. So you look for a reversal because of this candle or continuation, and then you see the resistance. So you know if it breaks through the resistance, it's going to continue to the upside. But if it gets rejected, then you know it's going to decline. At least you think it's going to decline based on the behavior. But past performance is no guarantee of future results. So here we're looking for the 5-day EMA to hold, and for this to be a key area of resistance. So if we were making any decisions regarding this trade based on this, we would want to see the candle if we were going to get, for example, if we're buying to the upside, we want to see the candle close above the 5-day. And then we want to see a second candle open and open above and move to the upside. Otherwise, if it doesn't close above, then this resistance is going to hold. And we have still about a minute. Looks like a minute, 30 seconds. So this spinning top could signal a reversal, but it's not hitting any support level that we've identified. So I'm going to say that this should signal for us a continuation to the downside. And our key area for our stop is going to be here, 413.07. If a candle closes above that level, and then the next candle appears to find support, then we would look to exit. Otherwise, we're going to stay in this trade. All right, so we did close above the 5-day. We've got a green candle. Let's see if this moves to the upside or downside. Looks like it's moving to the upside. What's happening with the VIX? The VIX hit that resistance and fell. So we think we're going to test that again. And what we've said previously is each time the VIX, each time a candle hits resistance or support, it weakens. So given the fact that we have this 30-minute candle here, and this is a spinning top, it closes in about 9 minutes. So this signals continuation. It's above the 5-day EMA on the 30-minute. So we're now looking at 30-minute chart versus being sort of jerked around on the 5-minute chart, which could happen. So looking at the SPY, for example, Let's go to a 30-minute chart on the SPY. All right, so looking at the SPY, this indicates to us that we have hit resistance here on the 20-day EMA in this trailing stop that we can't see, which is on the 5-minute, and it's getting rejected. So looking at the 30-minute chart, we're expecting the SPY to continue to decline. Unless it finds support here and moves up, then it will be a continuation, but we're expecting it to decline because it got rejected here. We've got a lower high. So we'll just have to keep our eyes peeled for this. At some point, this volatility will be gone. Well, not completely, but it won't be as bad as it is. And once that happens, and you can then make decisions and look at trends and follow trends and make good entries, it would be a whole lot better for trading. But right now with the volatility, it just kind of get whipsawed up and down. But that's not always going to be the case. So if you can trade in this market, then you can trade in any market. So we've been in this trade almost an hour, and we've just sort of been range bound here, with the understanding that, again, the SPY is going to ultimately decline. Let's see what's happening with Zscaler. All right, so Zscaler, we were correct here. So it looks to me that the market is being sold off. I think that people are really selling the top. But we just have to wait and see. So looking at the VIX again, keeping an eye on what's happening with the VIX. We're going to see if it finds support here and starts to move back up again. So it looks like the SPY has broken through the opening high. We're going to just wait, not fall into a little bull trap. So we still have, all right, so the next candle is green. So we're going to just exit our SPY trade. Well, maybe not. Let's take a look at this candle, see how it performs. We're looking to see if SPY is going to find support here. I'm looking at the VIX, and the VIX is falling. What I don't like about the VIX now is you've got the 5-day coming down across the top of it. So it looks like the VIX is going to fall. It looks like we're going to have a green day today. All right, so I'm out of my SPY trade to the downside. And that was a pretty significant loss on that trade. So should have taken my profit when I had it. But looking at the SPY, I'm going to watch the VIX here. And if the VIX falls through this support level, I'm looking for trades to the upside, and it looked like it has. All right, so much for trying to swing. That will be my last time trying to swing a trade. I'm going to just strictly stick with what I know, that is intraday trading, because that was not necessarily uh, working out well for us. So going back to SPY, this might be an opportunity to still trade to the downside, but this time I would be looking at buying something that expires today, not next week. So I'm going to mark this for 1494 on the, this is on the 30-minute chart. ATR trailing. So I don't think our thesis or prognosis was wrong. I just am protecting my account. Because if you look at the VIX has bounced off of this support level. So I'm going to make another trade. And I'm looking at the 410 puts on SPY expiring today at 88 cents. But I'm going to wait and look for a candle that signals opportunity for entry. And right now, looking at the 30-minute chart, this looks like where it might be the place. We've got the 50-day EMA, and then the ATR trailing stop. All right, so the VIX is falling through support. This is giving us a shooting star at the top of this move. The SPY looks bullish. going to wait for the SPY to come back and bounce off of some support level. So right now, it is through this key area of resistance. And again, I mentioned that this is an area where ideally you buy the rejection. So at 419.19 is where I would look to buy another SPY put. I'm gonna make myself a note here rather than this. So at 419. So it's quite possible we can trade SPY when SPY comes back and finds support. If it finds support here on the opening high, 43.07, then we would trade it to the upside with the idea that we would trade it up to 419 and then look at puts. So the market looks bullish today, at least this morning. And we are out of time for the moment. So any questions at all? And this is an interesting lesson. So when we have profit, David made a good point. When we have profit, it makes sense to take it. And we did not do that. We were waiting because we were looking to swing. And in a volatile market, swing trading is not necessarily, unless the market is trending, it could be very difficult because of the volatility. Because it's going to shake you out of a trade. So we could have stayed in this trade, but the problem with that is it would have continued to erode our capital. So we did lose some money. We're down a bit, but we're going to try and make another couple of trades and reverse that, but we just have to make sure we choose wisely. It's quite possible that now the SPY could hit this level and just fall like a rock. But again, we're out of the trade, and we bought time with the idea we would hold, but we're not going to sit in a trade and lose our capital. So any questions?
Hey, Richard. Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a good trade. Do you set a profit? I mean, or do you set prices of where you would get out of a trade?
Yeah, typically 30%
Okay.
is where I would set my trailing stop. So if I've made 30% on a trade, then if I'm trading 20% of my account, then I'm really close to making 10% of my overall, uh, gain for the day. So I would
Right.
use 30%, and then if it falls below that, I would try to take an exit, take my profit, or just take the profit at 30%. But I didn't do that today. I was looking to swing this, and that was not it. Obviously, I think it will work, but I didn't have the time nor the capital to stay in it.
Right, right. I mean, I think you're betting on them, and we are too. The market is going to fall apart eventually, and that was if that could have really accelerated to the downside, it made a lot more money. So I understand what you're doing.
Yeah, it was really volatile in the opening few minutes, and then it just sort of went sideways. I expected here. I didn't see volume come in, right? So that was the problem. There's no volume here. So I didn't have a lot of confidence in that. And then, of course, when it got above the 5-day EMA, it just had too much support. So I think the market's going to decline. I'm going to see if this is where the top is. I'm still going to buy puts on the SPY today. The question is where.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
and there's a meeting today, the FOMC. I think Powell speaks today too.
Yeah, and that should tank the market. So, let's see, what are they doing now? Are the markets up or down? So they're green right now, but again, I think that's temporary. So I'm looking here. I'm going to get back into a spy put. Just want to find the right entry. And instead of, again, trying to swing this, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to buy today's expiration to get the biggest gain that I can, and then take my profit. And right now I'm looking at the 410. All right, so I will see you guys tomorrow, and I'm going to join the room with Dr. A and friends on Clubhouse.